Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to the disciples, "As it was in Noah's day, so will it also be in the days of the Son of Man. People were eating and drinking and marrying wives and husbands, right up to the day Noah went into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. It will be the same as it was in Lot's days. People were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building. But the day Lot left Sodom, God rained fire and brimstone from heaven, and it destroyed them all. It will be the same when the day comes for the Son of Man to be revealed. When that day comes, anyone on the housetop with his possessions in the house must not come down to collect them, nor must anyone in the fields turn back either. Remember Lot's wife. Anyone who tries to preserve his life will lose it, and anyone who loses it will keep it safe. I tell you, on that night, two will be on one bed. One will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding corn together. One will be taken, the other left." The disciples interrupted. "Where, Lord?" they asked. He said, "Where the body is, there too will the vultures gather." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I don't know if I ever told this story in this chapel about one of the devils who was training his 3 kids on how to tempt human beings. And after he had trained them for about 3 years and they were really experts in how to tempt human beings, he brought 3 of them together and then he asked them, "When you go to test human beings, what is the best method that you use?" And the first one said that when I go to them, I tell them there is no heaven. You don't need to worry about anything because there is no heaven anywhere. The father listens to that and he was very happy with that. And then the second came up and said, "I just tell them there is no hell, so you don't need to worry. You just have to do anything that you want to do because, in fact, there is no hell, so you don't need to worry about anything. You can sin, there is nobody, you are not going to end up in hell because everything is just heaven." And the father was really impressed with that as well. But he was most impressed with the last son who came and told him, "I tell the people that there is still time. I tell the people there is still time, so they don't need to worry about anything. Just do whatever thing you can because you still have a lot of time ahead of you." And the father was most impressed with him because that is what works a lot. That is what really keeps us away from being the persons we are meant to be. To think that there is time, we have the time. I mean, when I was growing up as a kid, I used to also always feel that, and I think we still have that kind of impression, that the old people are going to die first, and then followed by those who are oldest, and then the senior citizens, and then the 50s, and then the 40s, and then maybe we find ourselves somewhere in between there. And I think we still also have it in mind also that there are some people like Sir Daniel, they will die first and we will follow somewhere in between and things like that. We always feel that these old people are going to die first and then the young ones still have a lot of time. We still have some time. Even we are going to become senior citizens before we die. And yesterday we had a meeting, we had our assembly, and one of the things we were talking about is about the retirement home. And we have to build this house where when we get old, then we are going to go there and rest and everything. It's still that impression that we have in mind that we have the time. Who says that you are going to live until you are retired? Nobody knows that. But we always have it in mind that it's good to prepare something so that when we grow old, but nobody knows if it's going to grow old, because like Jesus says today in the gospel, it comes when you don't know. You might just be grinding meal, or you might be in the bed sleeping, or you might be walking on the road, or you might even be eating and it meets you there. And the letter of Saint James, chapter 4, from verse 13 to 15, says that, come here and listen, you who have a business and they say, I am going to do this next week and next month and next year and in 10 years' time. And it says, who has said that you are going to see that time? Who has said that you'll still be alive till next year? Who has said that you'll still be there in 10 years' time? Who has said that you'll even be alive tomorrow? Nobody knows this. And that is why, as we approach the end of the church's year, the readings are telling us also about the end. It's telling us about preparing. It's telling us about being alert. It's telling us about not sleeping and taking things for granted. It's telling us about this temptation of feeling that we have all the time. We do not. And that is why the letter of St. James says that once you do something, even when you make plans, you must always say, in verse 15, he says, as far as God wills that. Okay? I will do this tomorrow, if God wills. I will do this next week, if God wills. I'm planning for my business so that next year is going to do this, if God wills. So our plans must always be submitted to God's will. It's not our will, of course. According to our plans, we have to plan things and we say, this is what I want, this is what I want it to be, and all that. Remember also the parable of the rich fool, who was thinking about his barns, and he said, I have a lot of harvest, but I don't know where I'm going to keep them. And he said, I know what I'll do. I will harvest them, and I'll build bigger barns and destroy the small ones, build bigger ones. And then once I store my food inside, I'm going to tell my soul, relax. You have a lot to eat for many years. And that is the very night after he had built that God told him, the man is made for your soul tonight. So what is going to happen to everything that he has planned? It comes to a stop. So my dear brothers, like I said, and I continuously repeat, we must live each day as if it was our last day. We must live each day as if it was the last chance God had given us to live. We must live each day knowing that tomorrow might not meet us. We must continuously prepare at all times, being alert at all times, not taking things for granted, not saying that we have all the time in the world. Especially during this time of the pandemic, it has taught us a lot. I mean, it is true, the numbers are going down and we are very thankful to God. But we have learned a lot from this time, that life is very fragile. We must remember that we do not have all the time in the world. And we must continuously submit our will to God's will, and knowing that everything is meant for His own glory. He is the one who decides. We do not decide ourselves. We might plan, but we must submit everything to God's will. And it is His will that brings us fulfillment. It is His will. And when we have this wisdom, that we have true happiness, we have joy, and we are prepared at all times to do everything for the greater glory of His name.